is to closely examine the contents and the details in order to sort things out and smoothing the rough edges.
And once it's long-term borrowing, this borrowing will help to resort to rebuild the economy and put back people to work. We've always had with our budget. Is that what the minority leader previously mentioned? That is achieving our projections.
To bring back growth, small and medium enterprises are the key to most of the country's economic growth. And programs that have been designed in these particular areas are very apt.
The legislators underscored the essence of improved budget implementation in 2021 fiscal year. They commended the increment in the allocation of health, agriculture and education.
So I believe that implementation of our budget is as critical as the budget itself.
We will agree that this budget is a budget that is workable, is a budget that is achievable. Yes, we may not in the final analysis say, okay, we have achieved maybe 100%.
Believe that if we are able to prevent and stop these excesses of illegal mining, illegal extraction of our solid minerals, the revenue will shoot up.
It has been a very good debate.
Senate received executive communication from President Muhammadu Buhari requesting the consideration of the proceeds of Crime Bill 2020 as it confirmed the appointment of 8 justices of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, which has now increased the total number of Supreme Court justices to 20. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has commenced debate on the general principles of the 2021 appropriation bill presented by the President last Thursday before a joint session. Well, House members are optimistic that the proposed 13.08 trillion naira, a significant part of which is allocated to capital expenditure, will fast-track economic growth, which was slowed down by the pandemic in 2020 and the world over. The lawmakers commended allocations to critical areas towards infrastructural development and social investment programs for youth empowerment, employment. Other contributions noted discouraging performance of some revenue-generating agencies and called for more efficiency. The Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, says the House will consider penalties on agencies that flout provisions of the appropriation bill. Away from the legislature, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has ordered all personnel of the defunct SAS to report at the Force Headquarters Abuja for debriefing, psychological and medical examination. Now, the officers are expected to undergo this process as a prelude to further training and reorientation before being redeployed into mainstream policing duties. The medical examination will be carried out by the newly set up Police Counseling and Support Unit, a unit which henceforth shall engage in psychological management, reorientation and training of officers of the force deployed for tactical operations and other duties. Meanwhile, the IGP has set up a new special weapons and tactics team that will fill the gaps arising from the dissolution of the defunct SAS. Prospective members of this new team will also undergo psychological and medical examination to ascertain their fitness and eligibility for the new assignment. They are to commence training at the different police tactical training institutions nationwide next week. Let's talk health. For Nigeria to totally control the transmission of HIV in the country, about 75 billion naira is required annually to put 1.5 million people on treatment. The Director General, National Agency for the Control of AIDS, Dr. Gambo Aliyu, said this in Abuja while presenting the first edition of the 2020 HIV fact sheet to journalists. Basi Taipang brings us details.
With the current 1.3% HIV prevalence in Nigeria, the fact sheet shows that 13 persons out of 1,000 people randomly tested for HIV are positive.
By the time we succeed in identifying over 90% of people who have HIV in our midst and put them on these life-saving drugs, we are confident that transmission, person-to-person transmission, will drastically drop or will be eliminated.
About $6.2 billion had been spent to identify and treat 60% of the people living with HIV between 2005 and 2018, with about $5 billion coming from international donors.
We're talking with big pharma, and they have shown interest in coming to invest in ARV production in Nigeria. We're hoping that soon some of them will be physically here on ground, to kickstart that. Once we are able to manufacture these drugs and produce them in quantities that we need, the logistics, the price, and the opportunity for employment will all go up.
COVID-19 also affected provision of HIV services, leading to drop in testing and clinical activities. Based on how difficult it is to control the epidemic, the NACA has set 2 goals for itself: controlling and sustaining the spread of HIV in the country. Basi Taipang, NTA News.
Disaster management across the globe has been in the reactive over the years, as those in the management of the disaster only wait until it occurs to deploy any kind of mechanism to provide relief to victims. Well, the scenario is, however, identified as the reason for the destruction of lives and property, running into hundreds of billions of dollars. Worried by this development, the United Nations General Assembly in 1989 launched disaster risk reduction to promote a global culture of risk awareness and disaster reduction. Correspondent Ilyasu Ali Yakubu examines the journey so far.
Since the United Nations General Assembly designated 13th October every year as International Disaster Risk Reduction Day, key players have been using the day to celebrate how people and communities around the world are reducing their exposure to disaster and raising awareness. In Nigeria, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, is adopting the United Nations idea, especially in the 2020 disaster management. This effort has no doubt reduced the usual outcry from victims who are hitherto unaware of the risks involved in the devastation.
We cannot therefore continue to manage disasters by waiting to respond to them. We must evolve strategies for prevention, preparedness, mitigation, and response. Efforts to reduce disaster risk must be systematically integrated into policies, plans, and programs for sustainable development and poverty reduction through cooperation and partnerships at all levels.
Delivering effective and efficient service calls for serious commitment on our part. As disaster managers, we must grow out of self-pity to fashion out measures for intervention and initiate disaster risk reduction strategies suitable to our respective communities.
The 2020 International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction has as a theme disaster risk governance that will take charge of the management of disaster holistically to provide a better life for the citizenry. In Abuja, Ilyasu Ali Yakubu, NTA News.
All right, let's bring you a global update on COVID-19. Johnson & Johnson suspends COVID-19 vaccine trial, just as India records lowest single-day tally in 2 months. Uche Ugochukwu is already standing by with the update.
We begin on a cheery news from India, which reported its lowest single-day tally since the middle of August. The country's health ministry registered 55,342 new cases, representing decline in daily cases over the last 5 weeks. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says herd immunity, that is, indirect protection against COVID-19, is a scientifically and ethically problematic concept. It advised countries to continue with what they have been doing to deal with the pandemic. This comes as 3 well-known scientists released a declaration recommending an approach called focused protection based on the concept of herd immunity. In the meantime, Johnson & Johnson has suspended its COVID-19 vaccine trial due to an unexplained illness in a study participant. The company said an independent review would check if the person's symptoms were related to the jab. It, however, paused recruitment to the phase 3 trial as a precaution. From China comes a report that health officials have tested more than 3 million people in the last 48 hours after a cluster of coronavirus infections was detected in the city of Qingdao. In another development, cases and hospital admissions are reportedly rising again in many European countries, including France and Spain. Elsewhere, America remains the worst-hit country with 7.8 million infections, and Africa has a total of 1,594,915 positive cases and 38,384 deaths. Nigeria, after discovering 164 new cases from 14 states and the Federal Capital Territory, now has 60,430 total confirmed cases. Tally by the Coronavirus Resource Center at Johns Hopkins University shows the global confirmed infections as at 6 p.m. Nigerian time reached 38,193,030, while 1,087,425 patients have died. That does it from here. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
All right, a break is next for us. We're back shortly. Stay tuned.
There is a lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Thanks for staying tuned. A 21-member interministerial task team that will compile and produce a compendium on public service reforms in Nigeria has been inaugurated. The compendium is to provide a summary of key public service initiatives that have been implemented under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration from 2018 to 2020. Adebola Brooksland Sunday reports.
The Bureau is established to initiate, coordinate and ensure full implementation of public service reforms in Nigeria. The Bureau has so far produced 2 editions of the compendium for 1999 to 2014 and 2015 to 2017. For the Director General Dasuki Ibrahim Arabi, the production will not only serve as a reference material but also as a compass that will provide helpful direction for future reform initiatives.
The members of this IMTT were carefully chosen based on their wealth of experience, and I have no doubt that we will carry out the assignment with all diligence, passion, and commitment in the interest of our fatherland.
Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Folashade Yemiesan, represented said our office has implemented many reforms in collaboration with the Bureau.
Like IPPIS, BVN, GiveMix, Bureau of Public Procurement, Open Government Partnership, Governance, to mention a few.
The tax team approved by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, has 3 weeks to submit its reports. The terms of reference include to gauge the perception of the public, facilitate the communication of reforms, evaluate the impact of current and past reforms. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
Let's look at other issues. Project Reliance of the federal government targeting to empower 350,000 internally displaced persons has been flagged off in Borno State. The project, which is jointly supported by the Federal Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons and Central Bank of Nigeria, is to train IDPs in 50 different trades and businesses. Mohammed Goni reports that Governor Babagana Umar Zulum flagged off the intervention at Muna IDP camp in Mondiguri.
The empowerment program commenced with verification of internally displaced persons from all the local government areas across the state, after which they will be trained in different trades and businesses of their choice and will be provided with starter kits and take-up grant. The 50 trades and businesses include tailoring, poultry farming, bricklaying and fishing, as well as hairdressing, among others. Beneficiaries applauded the program, which they say will add value to their means of livelihood. Governor Bagana Umar said the program could not have come at a better time than now, as the state government is committed to returning the IDPs to their ancestral home or to a safe location to enable them recover their means of livelihood.
The task of resettlement and rehabilitation of thousands of IDPs is by no means an easy task. Government alone cannot accomplish it without the assistance of well-spirited individuals and organizations.
The governor called on the beneficiaries to make use of the program to add value to their lives. Federal Commissioner for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Senator Bashir Garba Muhammad, noted the devastation caused by the insurgency in Borno with attendant impoverishment to the once a vibrant and fast-growing economy in the northeast.
Our focus on ensuring a strong, lasting solution to the issue of accessible livelihoods was born out of Mr. President's desire that the government alleviates the long suffering faced by vulnerable people in Nigeria.
Representatives of the CBN Governor, Anthony Ikechukwu, assured continued support of the CBN towards success of the program. Shehu Borno, Abubakar Ibn Umar Garba El Kanemi, appreciated the Commission and the CBN for the intervention, but however appealed for more support as the state has suffered a lot due to insurgency. Commissioner for Higher Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Babagana Mustafa, said the intervention program, which is meant to empower the persons of concern across the 27 local government area, is in line with Governor Zulum's passion and commitment to improve the lives of the citizenry. SEMA Executive Chairperson, Yabawa Kolo, assured partnership of SEMA as well as Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation to realize the said objective. In Maiduguri, Mohammed Goni, NTA News.
On the judiciary scene, the National Industrial Court, Abuja Division, has declared Musa Mohammed as the authentic president of the Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria, bringing an end to the dispute which has been rocking the association. The court gave the judgment on Tuesday, that is today, in Abuja. Olabode Arewa will tell us more.
3 people, Shehu Sewele, Eriyo Sapawan, and Musa Mohammed, had laid claim to the presidency of the Transport Union. The former president, Sewele, was removed and expelled in 2018 from the union, prompting him to file this suit challenging his removal by the union's executive and subsequent replacement by his deputy, Musa Mohammed. The former secretary of the union, Eriyo Sapawam, had also filed a suit, insisting that he ought to have been recognized as the union's president. After reviewing arguments canvassed by the claimants, the court held that Isewele's expulsion was valid and that Musa Mohammed's appointment was in line with the union's constitution.
Today, we have legally a president of Ritian in the person of Alhaji Musa Mohammed.
We'll be testing the decision on appeal. That one we have made our minds up on it.
We are not satisfied with that judgment, and we are zooming to the court of appeal because we saw so many glaring errors, and those issues will be pointed to the court of appeal when we get there.
The court also dismissed Eriyo's claim to the presidency on the grounds that the removal by the union's executive was not in breach of the union's constitution. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
Chief Judge of the FCT High Court, Justice Ishak Bello, has declined an application by a convict seeking the communication of his death sentence to life imprisonment. The court turned down the application on the grounds that the convict had not met the conditions stipulated in the new Correctional Services Act. Femi Okewo tells us more.
On the 10th of February 2009, one Darlington Eze was found guilty of armed robbery in the Federal Capital Territory. He appealed his conviction at the various appellate levels and was finally convicted by the Supreme Court on the 13th of April 2017. Seeking to exercise his right under the new Correctional Services Act of 2019, which seeks to decongest the nation's correctional centers and encourage good behavior and true reformation of convicts, counsel to the convict approached the FCT High Court for a commutation of his sentence. Section 12(2)(c) of the Act says that the court may commute the death sentence to life imprisonment if, after 10 years of conviction, the convict is found to be of good behavior. But Justice Ishaq Bello turned down the application, saying that the computation of time after conviction is from the final sentence by the Supreme Court and not the court of first instance, which makes it just 3 years after conviction. He, however, encouraged the convict to continue to be of good behavior, as attested to by the prison authorities. In Abuja, Femi Okewu, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated businessman and philanthropist Chief Emeka Ofor on receiving the Sun Newspaper Humanitarian Award, describing his nomination as well-deserved. A presidency statement says President Buhari described Chief Ofor as someone who has dedicated himself for years to humanitarian causes, including the eradication of polio and river blindness, and urged other rich men to emulate his noble deeds. Talking sports, Super Eagles players have all tested negative for COVID-19 ahead of their friendly with Tunisia this evening. However, sadly, Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo has joined the list of football stars to have tested positive and will now miss the Nations League game against Sweden on Wednesday. Bade Adeleye brings a sports update.
Tunde Olofin of Lugbe Draft Club is still celebrating his victory at the Maiden FCT Draft Championship. Olofin recorded 1 win and 2 draws in a game of best of 3 to emerge the champion of the competition, organized to promote draft in Abuja.
If you want to win me, it will be very hard. So that one motivated me and gave me that confidence that I should be able to win everybody.
Meanwhile, the newly inaugurated members of the Executive Council of Parkland Golf Club in Abuja has mapped out a blueprint for the development of golfing in the FCT. Grand patron of the club, Muftar Bello, who inaugurated the 11-member committee, reiterated their dedication to creating more corporate golfing units like NTA Parkland Golfing Club to serve as an avenue of attracting potential golfers.
We should take this advantage to be able to encourage more people. And this is one of the major significance of the executive committee, who will be interfacing with the other members to encourage them to participate in the game of golfing.
In other news, Kubrat Pulev says there is no going back on the planned fight with Nigerian-born British boxer Anthony Joshua. The Bulgarian and Joshua were earlier scheduled to face off on June 20 before the fight was postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. The bout now appears to be back on track, with the 39-year-old confirming a December 12 date for the fight on his official webpage, while also revealing that there will be no rescheduling. With Sports Update, Bade Adeleye, NTA News.
And we're done. We do appreciate your company, but remember to connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. I'm Ruth Aguela. Bye.